Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. It is a pleasure for us to be into our second century, if you will, of episodes. And we have a repeat guest tonight, but he is in a different realm of life now in terms of his professional career. And we're excited to talk to him again. My guest tonight, I met several years ago. We ended up on the same executive committee for superintendents in the state of North Carolina. And although he was in the western part of the state and still is at that time, and I was in the eastern part of the state of North Carolina, districts many hundreds of miles apart, we became brothers of sorts. And so I'm pleased to have him back on the show tonight. My guest is Dr. Jeff McDaris. Jeff McDaris began his teaching career in 1983 after graduating from North Carolina State University with a bachelor's degree in industrial arts education. He served as a teacher, coach, and administrator in North Carolina for 40 years. He strongly believes that learning should never stop any of us. It builds our capacity for continuous improvement and enriches our great state. He served as superintendent of Transylvania County Schools in North Carolina for 14 years. Jeff earned his master's degree in industrial education from Western Carolina University in 1993 and his doctorate in educational leadership from Western Carolina in 2005. He is a graduate of the Principal's Executive Program at UNC Chapel Hill, a former trustee for Blue Ridge Community College, and he served on the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board for 17 years. He also served on the North Carolina Superintendents Association Executive Board and is a past president of the Brevard, Transylvania Chamber of Commerce. Dr. McDaris is a 2021 recipient of the Peak Performer Award at Western Carolina University and a 2017 recipient of the William and Ida Friday Award from the Friday Institute at North Carolina State University for Innovation. He is a former NCCTE Director of the Year, a past president of the North Carolina Association of School Administrators, the North Carolina Association for Career and Technical Education Administrators, and the North Carolina Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. He is also a former Western Region Superintendent of the Year. A native of Transylvania County and a 1979 graduate of Brevard High School, Jeff is married to his high school sweetheart, Lisa. He and Lisa have two sons, John, who is a middle school principal in Henderson County Public Schools in North Carolina. He is married to Charity with three awesome granddaughters, Madeline, Ava, and Emerlyn, and William, who's his son and works in the private sector in Buncombe County, North Carolina. He's married to Rebecca, a former teacher in the Buncombe County schools, and Jeff and Lisa live in Pisgah Forest, North Carolina. Now, at this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience, Dr. Jeff McDaris.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here, William. It's good.
Absolutely. And Jeff, I don't think I told you this. I now have a daughter-in-law also as of February 3rd. So
congratulations.
Last time we talked. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So look, man, the last time I saw you, not that you look like an old man, but you look about 10 years younger than the last time I saw you. So retirement looks good on you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I don't, I'm still getting used to retirement. I retired on June 30th, and we took a little bit of a trip. But as you know, all superintendents know, you have one switch, it's on.
That's
and
right.
Trying to adjust to that has been a little bit of an adjustment to me. I'm always looking for something to do. Today I mowed grass and it was really hot out there, but you know what? I'm enjoying it. I've got some things that I'm getting ready to do with a nonprofit, but yeah, it's been good retirement. I feel like I'm sleeping better. And the other night they had their first board meeting without me there, and I was not there.
So did you tune in or anything? Or
My wife watched a little bit of it.
Okay. Okay.
It,
All right.
it went pretty routine. My replacement, she's going to do a great job, and she's got a veteran group around her, and I wish her the very best.
Very good. Very good. Well, first of all, congratulations to you to get to retirement and having served. I read 14 years in Transylvania as superintendent. That is certainly an amazing accomplishment, and you're to be commended for the work that you've done. Anything from reading the famous quotes. It's a great day to be in Transylvania. I remember those tweets all of those years, and certainly hats off to you for your work. So now that you're kind of in a reflective state, I would say, just talk to us about some of the things that you experienced in those years that you were superintendent, and even just in general in Transylvania that you're very proud of.
Well, thank you. My county, like a lot of counties, has undergone a lot of change. We've seen it across both North and South Carolina. We had a lot of industry here when I was much younger, and it left us. And so we had to pivot and change. We became more tourism based. But the one constant in the school, and one of the constant in the county was the school system. And while the numbers of students dropped, it leveled off. And, you reach that point where, okay, yes, the economy has changed. Yes, the world around us has changed. But what are we doing to prepare our students, not only if they want to live in this area and be successful, but if they go somewhere else? We have a lot of students that move to the Raleigh area, some in the Atlanta area, and where we're positioned, we're just north of Greenville, South Carolina, and Greenville's been growing leaps and bounds too. So what are we doing from a regional standpoint? And early on in my career, in fact, the first couple of years, I became very interested in the potential for technology to open up the world for our students. It seems to be, much more common for all of us now, but back in 2009 and 10, we did have some computers in our high schools, but they were the old lab situation. But to make a long story short, we embarked on an effort to try to equip our students for the world in the present as well as the future. Students were coming back to us from college, even the military, private sector, increasingly talking about how much time they were not only spending on the computer, but the things that were related to computer work, as well as taking classes and coursework and training. Well, being in the mountains, we have a lot of snow. And so we were brainstorming one day, and I really realized, I thought, we don't want to interrupt learning, because we all know we saw this, in the pandemic. When you pause learning for any reason, students have an adjustment to get back. So what we decided to do was to work with our commissioners, work with E-rate funding, work with a lot of different private benefactors, grants, anywhere we could find resources. And we moved to try to make our system a one-to-one system. At the same time, it wasn't just a matter of putting the computers in front of the students. It was training our people on how you teach with a computer. No computer will ever or should ever replace a teacher. The art and craft of a teacher in the classroom is paramount. But what we can do is equip them with the tools to enhance that teaching and learning situation. And we've done that. And we went one-to-one, and we went to virtual days. We designed it for online instruction so that if we had a snow event, we would have school in the morning, students online. And I remember this, and I still to this day, it's one of my favorite situations. I had a student who was a real leader at one of my high schools. Just a great kid, great young man. He works for the local sheriff's department now. We still keep in touch. He was in high school, and I was meeting with my student advisory committee, and he said, Dr. McDaris, let me get this right. You're telling me that if we get up, I could actually be in my pajamas and I could participate in class, and we're done by noon, and I'm not going to have to make it up, and we're not going to extend the school year or go on a Saturday. And I said, well, you're pretty close. I said, I'd like you to be dressed a little bit more than your pajamas, but other than that, I said, you're absolutely right. He said, sign me up. Who do I need to tell? And we moved to that, and parents now have embraced it. We don't extend the school year. We don't go on Saturdays. We have a 4-hour event. That served us well, unfortunately, for all of us when the pandemic hit. We were able to hit the ground running because we were already used to it. Now, I will tell you, we learned a lot from that as well as everybody else did. We found out that our setup was for a weather event lasting no more than 5, 6, 7 days at the max. I don't know that anybody was set up to go 3, 4, 5 months without a break. So we had to pivot and learn a lot with that as well. We've continued to build on that. People sometimes got a little tired, I know, of digital learning because we know that face-to-face instruction is so powerful, and we embrace that as well. But we still try to improve our digital learning here, and they were working on just some things the week before I left, because we know that that's still going to be something we're going to utilize. Colleges are using it increasingly, community colleges, 4-year colleges, the private sector. So I guess if I had to pick one thing, that was a long-winded way of saying, if I had to pick one thing that I'm most proud of, it was that we enhanced our digital capacity, ability, and footprint in our system, and really positioned ourselves moving forward for whatever changes are coming down the line.
I can remember vividly, and it's so great to hear you recap that story and information, because I can remember vividly when all of us were online, I think, and trying to figure out what to do with moving to the digital environment. You guys, at least, I remember you helping all of us realize that here's some things that you need to look at because we've been through it. And as leaders, we got to be smart enough to always understand that keep those networks open, because you never know when somebody else can help you get through what you're dealing with. Now, the pandemic in itself, as you said, it taught us some things that none of us, I think, were prepared for. But at least when it came to transitioning to a digital environment, people like yourself were very helpful to those of us, particularly in the East, where we did not have a lot of snow events because we were on flat land and close to the ground, if you will. But we learned a lot from you all, and I'll always be appreciative of that, for sure.
Well, you make another great point, William, when you talk about the network. None of us are any better than the network we have. And I know the word teamwork gets used a lot, but there's really a lot of truth in that, because no one can succeed without the collective force of everyone around them. And that's why those networks of educational leaders is so important, because we may be the only profession out there in a world that's so competitive. We may be the only profession where we beg, borrow, and steal from each other, and we're glad to do it and smile about it and congratulate each other when we do it. So it's important to have that network.
That's right. Dr. McDaris, one of the things that I remember vividly also, I said, I didn't prepare you for this question, but you'll get through it just fine. When we were in our executive session meetings and we were trying to defend and fight for the profession, I think you and I might have been some of the two most vocal in the group. I'll put it that way. And so, that being the case, why is it so important for leaders, particularly superintendents or district office leadership, to defend the profession? Why is that so necessary nowadays, in your opinion?
Well, somehow or another, we've become a target, and I use that word sincerely. We've become a target for the world's frustrations.
Sure.
We sometimes hear stories that we're doing some things in our schools that we're not doing, And very often they're not spending enough time reporting the good things that we are doing. And I think it's important for us to defend the profession, because the foundation of our states and our country really rests upon the foundation of our public schools. And we know that we have the students that are coming through, and every one of our class. And we sometimes may not pause to think about this, but in every one of our classrooms, no matter where we are, no matter if it's a very small rural area or it's a very large area, there's someone in one of our classrooms that may go on to be a great CEO at some industry. They may be the one who discovers the cure for something. They may be the one that comes up with the invention of a lifetime. And they're in our schools, and they're learning alongside with other students. And they're also learning something else that's very, very important. And ironically, the pandemic revealed how important it is. And that's the ability to work with others, people with different abilities, different aspirations, and to try to function as a group to try to learn. And we've got to defend the profession, because we are not doing things to hurt children. We're doing things to help children. We all chose this profession because we wanted the best for children. And sometimes I think we have to remind some of our critics that our job is not to just design a school system for their child. It's to design and operate a school system for all children, because it's going to take all children to make a successful economy. We're not going to be around forever. What we're doing now is building the future. The future lies in the hands of our children. And we say that a lot, but it means a lot more than we sometimes pause to think about.
That's right. That's right, brother. It's good to be retired, so you can just let it roll, right? but so true. So true. We have to make sure that people understand that this work that we do is bigger than us.
It's finding common ground. Even our as toughest critics, first of all, in this job, you have to be willing to reach out to your toughest critics,
Right.
because there's a statement that I heard an attorney make one time, that if you win the heart, you win the mind, and it's important to win the heart. And we sometimes need constructive criticism. There's a lot of things that we've improved in our schools across America and across the Southeast because of we were willing to listen to ideas from others that wanted to make school even better. And people are struggling. Parents are struggling. You don't know what's going on in their life on a particular day, but the school offers the one place that they can come. It's so different, and it's changing so fast. And I think that sometimes it scares people. They may not want to say they're scared, but if you think about it, school's very different from what it was just 10 years ago. It's totally different from what it was when I started school. And we're trying to adapt. They've got to learn more things. Every subject's important. The other thing that we have to remember when we're defending our schools is that, all the subjects work together to make a great citizen. Art, music, band, athletics, all of those help build leadership. ROTC, I could go down the list, the club activities, the competitions. I would dare say that if people were to sit and think, and you give them two choices, and you say, hey, do you remember what your final score was and what you did on that 8th grade math test? They should remember they passed it, but they probably don't remember the score. But if you ask them, who was the teacher that made the biggest difference in your year that year, they can tell you that. And so it's about relationships. And that's another reason we want to defend the profession, because those relationships with our public are critically important in the education process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes this work so continuously amazing. I'm going in the year 26. I saw where you had 40. I'm going in the year 26, and I'm just as excited right now as I was in 1998 when the career started. So, absolutely. So here's a good one. Look, I'm trying to find somebody that's retired so I can actually ask this question. So now that you are less than 30 days but into retirement, those of us that are getting ready to begin the new school year, 2023, 2024, that probably sounds really good to you, doesn't it? But beginning that school year, what advice do you have for people in leadership? Superintendents, yes, but also maybe a brand new principal or whomever that you just educators in general. What advice would you have for us?
Well, when you start that year out, well, first of all, if you're not nervous and excited,
Yes.
there's something wrong. Because every year for 40 years, I was nervous for this first day, but I was also excited for the first day. Here are some things that I've learned over time. I've worked with others that believe this, and I feel are important things that at least I could share from my perspective. One is it's true. Remember who you're there for. We're there for the kids. There are going to be kids that walk into that school, as you well know, that's the safest place they're going to be that day. You're going to encounter kids that are so brilliant that they're going to be scary smart someday. And, what can I do? What can we do to challenge them and to channel that energy? You're going to be around kids that the best thing that they can do is to learn very little that one day that they can remember. And so you've got both ends of the spectrum. So remember what you're there for. You're there for the kids. The other thing to keep in mind is that the number one thing on all our minds, I think every day, is school safety. How, what can we do to make sure that it's safe? Because parents want their children to be in a place that's safe. You make sure that that place is safe. The second thing is, and I used to tell teachers this when I would beginning teachers, and I would meet with them at the start of the year. You got to make, I would, not really a trick question, but I would ask them, what's your primary role? And sometimes they would say, right off the bat, they would say, oh, well, it's to teach kids. That's not really the top thing. The top thing is safety. The second thing is to make that child feel loved and cared for. To make sure that they feel welcome in your school, that they feel like they are part of the school family. And that includes the parents, making the parents feel like they're part of that school community. Every time you have an event, you can get more parents to it. And I know that sometimes it's hard with working schedules. You win the heart right then. But if you make a child and a family feel like they're safe, and then you make them feel like that they are cared for and they are important, then you can get to the third thing. And the third thing is to teach them. The third thing is to educate them. You don't do the first two, then the third one's pretty hard to reach. And then I would add this to all of our colleagues out there. I would dare say 100% of your listeners and viewers are thinking about what they can do, to improve things for their people. Right. You know who they forget? They forget themselves. Mm-hmm. You've got to take care of yourself. I try to do a little exercise every day. That may not be the thing for everybody. Maybe it's a 10-minute pause when you get home late in the evening. It might be dark, but that you can just take some time for yourself. But if you don't take care of yourself, not many other people are going to be there to take care of you. And so I would tell all of our colleagues, please make sure to take care of yourself, because we've had colleagues that have gone through some tough, unexpected times with health scares, and it really opens your eyes. So I would just those are 4 or 5 things that I would throw out to start a year. Just remember that you matter too. You matter because you're the person that's willing to step up and stand in sometimes the line of abuse or whatever, ridicule, because you are there in the best interest of children. And every time you remind the community that you're doing what's in the best interest of children, I think it's a winning argument that just cannot be deflated.
Great words of wisdom. And I took some notes there, Dr. McDaris, because I need that too. That's great. That's outstanding. And a colleague of ours who is a retired superintendent like you, he beat me to it as well, just like you did. His name is Dr. Stephen Peters. He wrote a book years ago called "Do You Know Enough About Me to Teach Me?" And I encourage teachers all the time, get to know your children before you start imparting knowledge into them, because if you don't do that, and that's what you just said, if you don't do that, then we're going to be behind the 8 ball, particularly nowadays. We better get to know these children and make sure that we're doing everything to keep them safe, because safety is obviously a major part of what we do, particularly in the 21st century and beyond. So
yes,
thank you so much for that. Dr. McDaris, if you'll come back, if you'll hold on with me for just a minute, we'll come back and close out the show.
Sure thing.
My guest next week on the Wright Experience will be Dr. Tony Watlington. Dr. Watlington is the superintendent of the school district of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Watlington has just completed his first year. We're looking forward to talking to him next week on the Wright Experience. As we go into this next school year, I first of all, from my desk to all of you, want to wish each of you an amazing school year for the 23-24 school year. I'll send a special shout out to the Sumter School District, where I've been serving for the past just about 13 months now. I'm absolutely excited about the future for our district and for children nationwide across as we continue to try to do the very best that we can. Those of you that are non-educators that are listening to us, we ask that you continue to keep us in mind. Every time you see an educator, please encourage them. Education is becoming an increasingly difficult task for us to do, yet we have some amazing people that are dedicated to doing that work every single day. And so we ask that you join us in continuing to support the profession of educating young folks. And leadership in general these days is presented with its challenges, because everybody believes that they can tell you how to do what you do better than you. And so thank you for your continued support of this show, but also of leaders in general. And Dr. McDaris, I'm absolutely pleased that you took the opportunity to come on this show. You're welcome back anytime, and certainly congratulations are in order to you for reaching retirement age. And I know you. I know you got too much fighting and you just go and sit down. So we know we're going to be hearing from you again, and the private entity that you're going to work with, that you we don't need to know who that is at this point, but certainly they're getting a phenomenal individual. I've always appreciated the interaction that you and I have had, and the candid conversations that I didn't ask you about tonight. We're not going to go into those, but I've always appreciated being able to call out west, and we just have those conversations about trying to make outcomes better for children, because that's really what leadership is all about, making outcomes better for those that you serve. So thank you for being a part of the Wright Experience.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor. And, I'm going to be working for a nonprofit that's related to education and trying to improve the future for children and my future NC. And so I hope our paths continue to cross. And I know you mentioned your next week's guest, Tony. I remember when he was in Rowan County. So we've got a brother and sisterhood here, and I'm just honored to be here this evening with my good friend. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And to the Wright Experience audience, thank you for watching, and good evening.